There's a common denominator between most of the UFC 4 meta picks. A lot of it comes down to their punch speed, punch power, accuracy, blocking, head movement, footwork. Of course, power for both punching and kicking matters, but generally when those stats are pretty high, it makes for a really solid fighter. And of course, their move levels. Now, I can't really afford to go into deep dive move levels. Just basically know if the guy has 3-star or 4-star and a lot of things, they're pretty solid. Behind that as well comes with the health stats. The better the health stats, the more it allows you to survive, get away with making certain mistakes, versus if you're using somebody who has significantly lower health stats, right? So if we go into, say, the featherweight division, right, in bantamweight we have Jan. Jan has the 95 cardio, 95 chin, 92 body, 95 legs, recovery. Featherweight division, we have all these top fighters, but there's a difference between Volkanovski, Holloway, Conor McGregor, whereas Jose Aldo, who has solid striking stats, his health stats are not there. And also, a key thing with these upper meta fighters, because the body and legs are defended with the same button, you don't really have to worry as much as long as your offense, your counter offense to defend leg and body attacks is on point. So couple in with guys who have 100 accuracy, like Conor McGregor, guys like Max Holloway who have a lot of cardio and like solid accuracy. Even though they don't have the best power, he has high move levels. You'll see a common theme between all of these picks that you will always see on ranked championships. It makes them so deadly because of a player who is not better than you, or if you guys are fighting at a, maybe you guys have a closer matchup, but not including things like lag, delay, and of course, good old EA tracking. Some things just favor other fighters better than the others. So we're going to get into their perks as well. The more common perks you're going to see amongst these quote-unquote meta fighters, and this is what people generally look for. If you haven't seen the perk breakdown video, that gives you a more in-depth version of what every single perk does. But more likely than not, when you're looking at a meta fighter, they're going to have more striking perks with a couple of cardio perks here and there, but it's mainly going to be striking and maybe some stuff with regards to blocking. So we're going to take a look at, say, the perk Force of Nature. Force of Nature is a devastating perk, especially with somebody like Jan, based on his stats and everything else, as well as Predator. Allows for easier cage cutting. Force of Nature, once you start to rack up damage against your opponent, your own health gets higher. Don't know who decided on this perk, but with somebody like Jan and how he is built, it makes him extremely busted. With laser focus, fast hands, weathering storms buffs your block. Predator helps you cut off the cage when you're moving sideways. So higher block when you're moving sideways, and you can cut off the cage sideways. That's what makes Dustin so good. So you're starting to see a little theme here. The perks really complement each other extremely well, and it helps you get the job done. Even with guys like Conor McGregor, who has more of the punching perks, frontal assault with front kicks allows him to corral opponents against the cage with his side kicks and his body front kicks. And even perks like Bulldog, which allow you to pretty much stay in your opponent's face the entire time. Animation recognition is very important for guys who are pressure fighters with these guys, because they're going to be watching your defense as you're trying to defend their onslaught. And once you are being reactive in a fight, you're already putting yourself at a pretty big disadvantage because you're waiting on everything that they're doing. Meanwhile, they're making reads on your defense, they're making reads on what animation your block is in, whether it's going to be the front block or the side block, and gradually they're going to keep on adding bleed through damage until they're able to get a subsequent knockdown as a result of it. The other thing too, they gradually will burn your long-term block with bigger strikes. So if you make the wrong choice and you start to slip into big strikes like a head kick, that tears away your long-term head health and your long-term block. Another thing they do extremely well is the strike tempo management. So instead of just going 1 2 3 1 2 3, it's going to be a couple times 1 2 2 3. By changing up the tempo, they're able to mess up your timing when you're trying to use your defensive tools. There's a couple of entries a lot of them like to do. Sometimes the jab, rear forward hook, and the delay, and they try to catch you on the half beat. So whenever you're trying to go for a defensive maneuver, when they catch you on the half beat, It makes it easier for them to trap you with the hit stun. You get the feeling of where your controller is stuck. You can't move your head, and you get knocked down. So a big thing is cage cutting as well with pressure fighters. As your back gets closest to the cage, your footwork gets a little bit hampered if you don't have somebody with a skirmisher. If your back gets caught against the cage, you're going to lose the ability to pull. Right now I'm trying to pull. I can't pull. And this is exactly where a player that's pressuring you with their footwork and then unleashing combos from hell against you with their high and low mix-ups, which we're going to cover in a separate video with regards to high and low mix-ups. Once they get you to this point and you're back against the cage, you're stuck. Your movement is slowed by about 20%, and this is where a lot of players get subsequently knocked out because you end up feeling stuck. The animation has you trapped, the bleed through just starts to wear, and the damage comes and you get knocked down. A lot of times with these players, they're mainly high blockers because they're very confident in their defense. Because the low block does a lot of jobs, they're not really too worried if you're trying to kick their legs. They only really care about head damage, but with the occasional body head mix up. If you try to attack their body, more likely than not, they're going to hit you with an uppercut counter. If they attack your body, the more common thing that's going to come from them, they're going to try to slip your uppercut counter, which is now pretty popular. So if you're going for like a lead body hook, they're probably going to slip your uppercut counter, and more likely than not going to follow up with a counter combination off of that alone, punishing what you thought was your good counter offense, and it makes it very difficult. So it's not just combinations, it's knowing when to go, when to choose your strikes, where to position yourself. More likely than not, the pressure fighter is going to look to trap you against the cage to where they can release their onslaught combinations. They're going to mix up their tempo when they're in open space to work gradual damage. And with the fighters that they generally tend to pick, if you don't make the right decision, it can be lights out.